Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Rana Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishikam Vitam Sya Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshunam Milidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhishtam Supurakam Garganara Sesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Vande Vishwa Gurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bija Pranam Devam Divyatanum Suchanda Varanam Balarka Chelan Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Sarasatanam Baram Bandetam Shivaram Mareka Sharanam Nyashishwara Sridharam Bansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripasindubhya Vichaha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurastavishe Namah. So reading from Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat by Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur, translated by Sarva Bhavana Das. And today we're reading from Antya-khanda, Chapter 4. The Pastimes of Achyutananda and the Worship of Madhavendra Puri. All glory to Sri Gaurachandra, who is an ocean of mercy, and whose lotus feet are all auspicious. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, the pride of the Sannyas order, and his devotees. After delivering everyone in Koliya, the Lord proceeded towards Mathura, accompanied by his associates. He traveled along the banks of Ganga Devi, often drinking from and bathing in her waters, thus fulfilling her long-standing wishes. On the banks of the Ganga, near to the city of Goda, lay Ramakeli, a township with a large community of Brahmins. There the Lord remained incognito for a few days. Nevertheless, soon everyone came to know that Sri Krishna Chaitanya had arrived. It is not an exercise in futility if one tries to... Is it not an exercise in futility if one tries to hide the sun? So soon men and women of all kinds and ages poured in from every direction, feeling excited and flushed with pleasure. As was usual, the Lord was absorbed in divine ecstasy. Nothing could interfere with his immersion in the transcendental mellows. One after another, the different ecstatic symptoms manifested upon his person, and he fell swooning again and again. The devotees were also enwrapped in the blissful mood of the Lord, and they performed continuous kirtan, leaving aside all other business. When sometimes the Lord cried out in spiritual mood, this sound would carry far and be heard by travelers even a couple of miles away. Although most of the people were simple rustic folk, ignorant about the mellows and intricacies of devotional service, yet by seeing the Lord in his entire variegated splendor, they became most happy. Enraptured, the people remained watching the Lord from a distance and offered their prostrated obeisances, loudly resounding the holy name of Hari, Hari. When the nectarine sound of the Lord's name entered the ears of Sri Chaitanya, his bliss would increase several-fold. He would lift his arms and encourage them, saying, "Go on, chant, chant, chant." The Lord blessed these people with such feelings of overwhelming joy that even the Muslims joined in by also chanting Hari, Hari. The Lord was emanating so much compassion that even the Muslims would offer prostrated obeisances from a distance to the Lord. The Lord had no other thought in his mind than kirtan and dancing. Now the crowd began to swell and grow. They watched entranced, and no one had any desire to leave. The people were jubilant, and their chanting made a tumultuous sound that rose upwards and rent the atmosphere for miles around. The only sound was Hari, 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 Hari. Close by within earshot was the ruling Muslim king's assembly house. Yet this did not cover this, but close by within earshot was the ruling Muslim king's assembly house. Yet this did not cower the spirit of the Sankirtan. The assembly chanted loudly and fearlessly, forgetting all attachments to home and family. However, in the meantime, the police inspector had gone to the king's palace and reported the arrival of a sannyasi in Ramakeli. He also reported that this sannyasi's continuous chanting of some ghostly mantra of the faithless had attracted a huge gathering. To this news, the king replied, "Tell me, how is this sannyasi? What does he eat? What is his name? Describe his appearance." The inspector said, "Listen, Your Majesty, I have never seen anything so marvelous. His beauty far excels the beauty of Cupid, and all his complexion overshadows. His beauty far excels the beauty of Cupid, and his complexion overshadows the brilliance of gold. His tall, majestic appearance, long arms extending to his knees, and slender concave abdomen are most charming. His lion's neck, elephant shoulders, lotus eyes, and exquisite face, more effulgent than a million moons, are incomparable. With red coral lips, a perfect set of pearly teeth, arched eyebrows like Cupid's bow, a full broad chest decorated with sandalwood pulp, and generous hips covered by a cloth with the color of the rising sun, he completely captures the mind. His feet are like two blooming pink lotuses. His 10 toenails are like 10 shining mirrors. I think he must be a prince out and about, traveling in the dress of a sannyasi. The most remarkable thing about him is that his body, which is as soft as freshly churned butter, keeps falling to the ground with great force. He crashes down at least 100 times in an hour, yet his body remains unhurt, unscathed. The hairs of his body are always standing on end like the skin of a jackfruit. At times, he shivers so violently that hundreds of people cannot keep him calm. His eyes emit tears like two effusive rivers flowing endlessly, and sometimes he laughs out so long and loud that even for a couple of hours he does not stop. Then suddenly overcome by the kirtan, he falls swooning to the ground and remains lying unconscious, to the great alarm of the onlookers. When he dances, undoubtedly it is the most sublime treat for the eyes, as he raises his hands and incessantly chants, Hari, Hari. He seems to forget and be unaware of every other activity. The people who converged on that spot from all directions had no desire to leave. I myself have come across many sannyasis, mystics, and wise men in my lifetime, but this sannyasi is certainly extraordinary. I repeat, Your Majesty, the arrival of this sannyasi in your land is indeed the greatest blessing. He does not seem to eat or sleep. He is simply all the time enwrapped in kirtan and dancing. The king, although grossly materialistic, heard everything, and he marveled at the description of the sannyasi. Still quite in disbelief, the king called for Keshav Khan and inquired from him, Keshav Khan, I want your opinion on this matter. Tell me what you think about this person everyone calls Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Let me know in detail about the character of this powerful guru and sannyasi. People are running from everywhere to see him. What brings him here? Keshav Khan, a noble and upright gentleman, became a little wary. He answered, Who is it that says he is a Gosai, a famous guru? He is a mendicant sannyasi, a poor foreigner. He travels about just living under trees. The king firmly replied, "Do not refer to him as poor. Surely it is offensive even just to hear such things. This sannyasi is obviously not an ordinary mortal. Undoubtedly, he is that person whom the Hindus call Krishna and the Muslims call Koda. This kingdom of mine runs under my direction, but his orders control the entire universe. I'm the king, yet even in my own kingdom there are so many who are inimical to me, whereas surely he is the supreme Godhead, for one and all from everywhere worship him with complete surrender. If I stop my staff's salary for but 6 months, then they will have so many complaints against me. However, in his case, I see that people are maintaining themselves at their own expense, and even then eagerly going to see and serve him without reservation. Therefore, please understand that this sannyasi is the Supreme Lord. Do not say that he is some poverty-stricken mendicant." After a thoughtful pause, the king continued to speak. "Now hear my orders concerning this sannyasi. I do not want anyone to disturb him. He is free to go anywhere and preach anything he chooses. He is free to go anywhere and preach anything he chooses from his own scriptures. Let him perform kirtan with the people and be pleased to stay wherever he desires. If anyone tries to stop him for anything, be he the Qazi, police inspector, or anyone else, then surely I will punish him with death." With these words, the king went inside to his inner quarters. Such are the wonderful ways of Sri Chaitanya, for this was the very same King Hussain Shah who was responsible for desecrating and destroying hundreds of temples in Orissa. Although Hussain Shah was such a fanatic and despotic Muslim ruler, even he accepted Sri Gaurachandra as the Supreme Lord. Nevertheless, the spiritually blind cannot see Gaurachandra as the Supreme Personality. They shave their heads and become sannyasis, but when they hear the eulogies of the Lord, they burn within their stone-like hearts with envy. The whole universe resounds with panegyrics of the Lord, and hearing of his glories quickly dissipates ignorance. Ananta Sesh, Lakshmi Devi, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva are all intoxicated and mad after relishing the super excellent pastimes of the Lord. The Vedas sing laudatory hymns in his praise, describing his supreme lordship over everything. Therefore, if anyone feels irked upon hearing the sublime transcendental qualities of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, then even if he be endowed with all good characteristics, then those qualities become malefic and will surely cause him distress. On the other hand, if a person bereft of any good quality sincerely remembers the lotus feet of the Lord, he is immediately elevated to the spiritual abode of Vaikuntha. The concluding portion, the Antya-lila of this book, reveals the transcendental activities of the Lord performing Sankirtan. The wise words of the king created new confidence in him amongst the pious circles. They secretly assembled in a house and began discussing this news. They said, "Our king's character is terribly tyrannical. He is always influenced by the mode of ignorance. He has caused widespread devastation, demolishing thousands of temples in Orissa. Suddenly, by some divine arrangement, he is now being prompted by the mode of goodness. His words strongly indicate this change. Nevertheless, now again, if someone influential comes along and sways the king with ill advice against Sri Chaitanya, then the king might have Sri Chaitanya brought into his presence, and then anything could happen. Therefore, we must immediately send a message to the Lord suggesting that this place, being always under the close surveillance of the Muslim king, is unsafe, and so he must proceed to the next village. A secret message containing this idea was quietly dispatched to Sri Chaitanya through a reliable and honest Brahmin. At that time, the messenger Brahmin arrived. The Lord was submerged in divine ecstasy, relishing the bliss within himself, and was continuously roaring like the rumbling of thunder. Millions of people chanted, Hari, Hari, and Sri Chaitanya danced in incalculable ecstasy. Unnecessary words or other activities never distracted him from dancing, singing, and encouraging all to sing. The messenger Brahmin stood there amazed at the sight, but failing to find the right opportunity to convey the message to him. What to speak of others trying to talk to him? The Lord even refused to converse with his own associates. The Lord was swimming in the deep tides of ecstatic bliss, tasting the sweetest nectar of his devotion unto himself, forgetting every other activity. The messenger could not find the right occasion to speak to the Lord, so he approached the Lord's intimate devotees. The Brahmin said, "You are all followers of the Lord, so please approach him timely and give him a message from the pious section of our village. It is, what is the necessity of staying so close to the king's palace?" The Brahmin then offered his repeated dandavats to the Lord from a distance and left. The Lord's associates were worried by the implications of the message, yet they could not deliver the message to the Lord. He was simply engrossed in dancing and oblivious to everything else. Raising both his arms with a beautiful melodious voice, he called out, "Sing, sing, sing the name of Hari." The millions who were swaying to the music joined in with clapping hands and exultant singing of Hari, Hari. Simply by remembering the devotees of the Lord, all obstacles are removed and the noose of material entanglement falls away. The living entities are able to perform even their smallest activities only by the help of his energy. He is glorified in the Vedas as the Supreme Brahman, the absolute truth, eternal and pure. His illusory potency, Maya, puts the errant living entity into illusion, whereby he forgets his constitutional position and becomes shackled by the chains of material life. Bringing with him the immortal nectar of Krishna Prema, this very same Supreme Lord has now appeared only to liberate all conditioned souls. What king can cause fear in the Lord? The Vedas declare that the Lord and personification of death, Yamaraj, is a menial servant of the Lord. What king can cause fear in the Lord? The Vedas declare that the Lord and pastimes of death, the Lord What king can cause fear in the Lord? The Vedas declare that the Lord and personification of death, Yamaraj, is a menial servant of the Lord. Sri Gaurachandra, the son of Sri Sachimata, is the Lord of both the material and spiritual planets. He now continued kirtan with unbounded joy, unconcerned about anything else. The Lord had ignited the hearts of the teeming millions who had come to see him with such transcendental happiness that even they were unafraid of the king's close proximity. What to speak of the Lord himself? Even though the spectators were mostly very, very simple folk, when they saw Sri Chaitanya, they became fearless of even death personified. So how could the thought of a mere king invoke trepidation in them? The atmosphere resounded with jubilant chanting of Hari, 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 as the crowd joyously appreciated the Lord of Vaikuntha freely mixing with them, singing and dancing. Suddenly the devotees who had received the message began to worry about the Lord, who is the supreme soul within the heart of everyone. Suddenly the devotees who had received the message began to worry, and the Lord, who is the Supreme Soul within the heart of everyone, immediately felt this. The Lord smiled and returned to his external consciousness and behavior. To cut asunder the anxiety of his devotees, the Lord spoke, I know you are very concerned and afraid for me, but why should the king call for me? It is natural that I meet someone who wishes to see me. However, it is not possible that everyone should wish to see me, so why be worried? If the king comes to see me, then I will see him. On the other hand, how can the king order me to come to him? What power does he have to do so? Only upon my prompting can the king say such words. Moreover, what is his ability to see me when others far more powerful seek my grace and sight? The Vedas search for me, yet do not see me. Have not great kings, sages, demigods, and perfected yogis failed to see me even after long and arduous searches? I have invented to propagate the congregational chanting of the holy names of Krishna, and by this I will deliver this sinful material world. In this age, these demons and evil forces that have never accepted my lordship and authority will weep in joy by chanting my names. Furthermore, I will vigorously distribute this ordinarily most rare devotional service, which is always most earnestly sought after by the demigods, sages, and perfected beings, to even the most abominable sinners, dog-eaters, untouchables, and women. However, those who becoming intoxicated with education, wealth, family, heritage, and knowledge, criticize and offend my devotees, I will deprive of everything, and they will never know my true identity. I declare truly that my name will be preached in every town and village of this earth. I've appeared in this universe, and I want that people should seek after me, yet not all are doing so. Therefore, it is highly improbable that the king would want to see me. The Lord finished his talk, placating the devotees and giving them hope and joy. The Lord stayed in that village for another few days, performing kirtan and dancing without any shadow of fear hanging over the people. Yet who can actually understand the desire and mind of the Lord? For the Lord now turned around instead of proceeding onward to Mathura. Sri Chaitanya told the devotees, I'm going to see the Lord of Nilachala, the supremely independent Lord, the source of the highest spiritual bliss, then traveled southward, singing and dancing along the path. He stayed close to the Ganga, all the way. And in a few days he arrived at the house of Advaitacharya. At this time, neglecting all other work, Advaitacharya was blissfully absorbed in watching the wondrous activities of his son. I shall now describe the marvelous conduct of the son who had so captivated the whole attention of his father, Sri Advaitacharya. The name of Advaitacharya's son was Achyutananda, and he was certainly the fit son of an able father. One day an elevated sannyasi visited their house and met with Advaitacharya. The sannyasi was at first hesitant, but then Advaitacharya offered his respects and seated him comfortably. Advaita inquired, how can I serve you, master? The sannyasi replied, there is just one thing I want to beg of you. I have a few questions I would like you to answer. Advaitacharya replied, kindly take some prasad first, and then we shall talk. However, the sannyasi insisted, I want to first know the answers to my queries. Advaitacharya relented and said, all right, please ask your questions. The sannyasi said, please explain the relationship of Keshabharati with Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Advaitacharya immediately considered the question in his mind, thinking there are two contrasting concepts involved here. the common social norms of this world and the higher spiritual perspective. Although the Supreme Lord does not have parents, still we say Krishna, the son of Mother Devaki. Similarly, in a spiritual sense, the Supreme Lord certainly does not need a guru, yet we find that the Lord is actually taking a guru, and we widely glorify this activity of his. Therefore, why should I talk about the spiritual aspect first? Better that I speak about the social norms first. After thinking in this manner, Advaitacharya said to the sannyasi, Sri Keshavarti is the guru of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. You already know that. Yet why do you ask? As Advaitacharya was speaking these words, Achyutananda came running into the room. Achyutananda was 5. Without any clothes, his chubby and charming form was covered with dust. He was as beautiful and attractive as Kartikeya. Even at this age, he was already very knowledgeable, devoted, and an extremely potent personality. When he heard his father's words saying that Sri Chaitanya had a guru, he became very upset and angry. Yet when he spoke, he smiled and said, Father, what did you say? Could you please repeat it? Do you really think that Sri Krishna Chaitanya has a guru? I cannot understand how you can dare to say such a thing. If such words have emanated from your mouth, then surely we now find ourselves in Kali Yuga. Or perhaps this has happened because of the insurmountable, illusory potency of Sri Chaitanya. This deluding potency may cover even Brahma and Shiva, and now I see that you have been affected by its unlimited power. If you are not under the influence of the Lord's illusory potency, then how could you have uttered a statement such as, Lord Chaitanya has a guru? By the desire of Sri Chaitanya, the entire cosmic manifestation enters into the pores of his own transcendental body as he lies in the waters of the causal ocean. Many wise and powerful sages, proud of their great status, find themselves totally confused and lost by even the least of his pastimes. For example, by Sri Chaitanya's sportive wish, Brahma was born from the lotus that grew from his own lotus flower. For example, by Sri Chaitanya's sportive wish, Brahma was born from the lotus that grew from his own lotus navel. Initially, Brahma was completely lost and could not understand anything about his own source or present position. Finally, he began to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord, and when the Lord was satisfied with his tapasya, the Lord bestowed upon Brahma transcendental knowledge. With this knowledge, Brahma then began to create this material universe. Brahma then passed down this knowledge to the elevated sage Shaunaka and other great devotees who very mercifully have propagated this knowledge to the whole world by the process of disciplic succession. How then is it possible that you could say that that very same Supreme Personality, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, has a guru? You are my father and my instructing spiritual master, so I am duty bound to learn from you. Why then are you giving wrong instructions? Achyutananda became silent. Advaitacharya felt rising pride mixed with unbounded joy within himself. He cried out, dear son, and picked Achyutananda up in his arms, drenching him with tears of ecstasy. He said to his son, as a matter of fact, you are my father, and I am your son. You have come to me as my son to give me in spiritual instructions. I have certainly offended you, so please forgive me. I promise never to say such things anymore. Achyutananda became immediately shy, hearing his own praises, and he kept his head down. Hearing the words of Achyutananda so overwhelmed the visiting sannyasi that that he fell down to the ground like a stick, offering his obeisances. He said, "Truly, he is worthy of being the son of Advaitacharya, like father, like son. All this is very wonderful to me. Right here and now is proof of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Otherwise, how could such words emanate from the mouth of a mere child? I have chosen an auspicious moment to come and see Advaitacharya, and I have seen the most amazing miracle." He offered repeated obeisances to Advaitacharya and his son, and feeling deeply content and blissful, the sannyasi left, chanting the holy name of Sri Hari. Achyutananda was indeed a worthy son of Advaitacharya, because he had taken complete shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. If someone worships Advaitacharya but disregards Sri Chaitanya, then even if he is Advaitacharya's own son, he will be doomed. Advaitacharya was so impressed with his son that he forgot all other duties. He took him in his arms and wept in great satisfaction. He smeared the dust from his son's body all over his own body. He began to dance, happily saying, "The associate of Sri Chaitanya has appeared in my home. Who can know the extent of Advaitacharya's devotion?" as he danced with his son in his arms. Sri Chaitanya found Advaitacharya engrossed in so dancing when he arrived at his house with all his associates. When Advaitacharya saw that the dear Lord of his heart had arrived, he fell to the ground and offered his obeisances, chanting, "Hari, Hari." He immediately went into a state of intense ecstasy, oblivious to his body and home. The ladies of the house chanted loudly, praising the Lord. Advaitacharya's house echoed with jubilant sounds and became full of bliss. Quickly, Sri Chaitanya took Advaitacharya firmly in his embrace and showered him with tears of immense joy. However, Advaitacharya fell to the ground and placed the Lord's lotus feet upon his chest while weeping profusely. The devotees were amazed to see such wonderful loving exchanges between the Lord and his dear associate, so they also were unable to contain their tears of happiness. After some moments, Advaitacharya Prabhu composed himself, and with the utmost humility he offered Sri Chaitanya a seat. The Lord sat down upon the elevated seat, and his associates sat surrounding him. Meanwhile, Advaita Prabhu and Nityananda Prabhu grasped each other in a warm embrace, reading each other's hearts, which were effervescent with joy. All the devotees offered obeisances to Advaitacharya, who in turn clasped everyone in a loving embrace. Only Vedavyas is able to fully describe the transcendental joy that descended into the house of Advaitacharya that day. Suddenly, Advaitacharya's son, Achyutananda, appeared in that assembly and fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya. The Lord quickly picked him up onto his lap and bathed him in tears of love. The Lord kept him lovingly, not letting him go, and Achyutananda clung to the Lord, not wanting to get down. The devotees were moved to tears of joy, seeing the Lord's extraordinary mercy upon this small boy. Everyone dearly loved Achyutananda, and similarly all the Lord's associates were very much loved and respected by Achyutananda. Certainly Sri Nityananda and Swarup Damodar loved him most dearly, and he was the foremost of Gadadhar Pandit's disciples. For these reasons, Achyutananda was considered by everyone to be the worthy son of an equally worthy father. Accordingly, now the Lord was experiencing divine bliss to be amongst his old and dear associates once again. He remained for a number of days in Advaita Prabhu's house, constantly immersed in the ecstasy of kirtan. Advaitacharya's joy at having his dear Lord in his house was ever increasing. After the initial excitement, Advaitacharya gave more thought to other matters. First, he sent a messenger to Navadip to inform Sri Sachi Mata of the Lord's arrival in Shandipur. The messenger was transported in a palanquin for speed, and upon arrival in Navadip, he requested Sri Sachi Mata to immediately accompany him back to Advaitacharya's house. Since Sri Chaitanya had left home, Sri Sachimata had gradually become increasingly immersed in an ocean of spiritual bliss of Krishna Prema. She now spent most of the time unaware of the external situation. She spoke things that appeared to have no immediate relevance, and often seemed to be listening to someone unseen. When Sachimata met anyone, she would ask, "Please tell me the news from Mathura, Vrindaban. How are Krishna and Balaram faring in Mathura? Just how well is that sinful demon Kamsa continuing his tyrannical activities? What about that thief, Akrura, who stole my Rama and Krishna? In fact, I've heard that demon Kamsa has died and Ugrasena has been crowned the new king." Sometimes Sachimata cried aloud, "Rama, Krishna, quickly go to milk the cows. Then I shall sell the milk in the market." Sometimes she was seen running absorbed in deep thought, with her hands stretched out in front, saying, "Hold him, hold him. There runs the butter thief. Let me just see if you escape today. I will surely catch you and bind you up." At other times, when seeing another woman manifest before her, she would say, "Come, let us go to the Yamuna for a bath." Many times she appeared to wait piteously, her eyes releasing endless gushing streams of tears in such a manner that would cause even stone hearts to melt. Sometimes Sri Krishna would appear in her meditation, and she would laugh in loud peals, perhaps for hours, exuding inexplicable joy. Then suddenly she would fall into an ecstatic swoon lasting several hours, where the external world would cease to exist for her. Another amazing symptom was that when she began to tremble, it was as if someone were repeatedly lifting her up in the air and hurling her down to the ground. No one other than Sri Sachimata could exhibit such ecstatic feelings of Krishna Prema. Sri Krishna is certainly the unlimited reservoir of love of Godhead. Sri Krishna, he has also infused into Sri Sachimata that same spiritual living potency. Therefore, who can fully describe the various ecstatic transformations of Sachimata? Day and night, she was fully absorbed in an ocean of devotional bliss. Who can fully describe the various ecstatic transformations of Sachimata? Day and night she was fully immersed in an ocean of devotional bliss. Without a moment's loss, all her activities were devotional service to Sri Krishna. Occasionally, when her consciousness would focus on the external reality, she would perform worship to her deities of Sri Vishnu. Fortuitously, when Sachimata was thus engaged in her deity worship, the messenger from Shantipur arrived. So, I'm going to stop here and we'll continue tomorrow or another day. Now sing Hari Haraya. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama. Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath H.I. Gosai Kori Janardan Bandhan H.I. Gosai Kori Janardan Bandhan Jawate Vignanash Abhishta Puran Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas Tasabar Bada Renu Mora Panchagras Tasabar Bada Renu Mora Panchagras Kadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Kadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame More Abhilas Janame Janame More Abhilas H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban Shri Guru Vaishnava Pare Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pare Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narottam Nam Sankirtana Kohe Narottam Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narottam Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narottam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Tariya Shri Chaitanya Bhagawat Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmamacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath, Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Prem Singo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Harshivasadi, Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vishvavaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Ki Jai, Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai, Shri Koladvip Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Sevashram Ki Jai, Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Vrindaban Dham Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan, Sham Kuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, all the assembled devotees Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.
Special Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki.